Good morning, cubies and newbies. I am Sunshine, and this is the ABCube channel, ABCube method for solving Rubik's Cube. But it's Saturday, so I just want to play. These are I just want to show off some of the random Rubik's Cubes that I have. This one I don't know what it was, a special edition, limited edition from something, but it is an active 2x2. It does turn, it does scramble, it does solve exactly like a 2x2. It's you know, hard plastic. It's a cube, but it's squishy, squishy. It's coated in plushy. The one that I gave my grandbabies is about twice as big, and it's 100% plushy, but it still solves like a 2x2. And I tried buying another one. They're sold out. They're discontinued. But each one of the corners has a different. Like, one has a rattle, and one has a squishy, crinkly sound, and so I have this one. I bought this one accidentally when I tried to buy the plushie for a upcoming grandbaby. So there's that. That's a toy. This one, I just got this one. Let me slide these out of the way. One at a time, fellas. Okay. I just got I just got this one. It is just shades of purple. It's all purple. Can you guess purple's my favorite color? It is similar to this one that is shades of black and gray. This is the one that on the Wednesday TV show, Wednesday Addams has this cube. So that's kind of fun. Just all black and gray. So, checkerboard to demonstrate the colors. And the purple one. Okay, this one, this is the Phantom Cube, which is activated by heat. So theoretically, as you play with the cube, the colors show up, and then you solve the cube and the colors fade away again. I got this for Christmas, and I couldn't play with it all winter because my hands were too cold to activate the heat. Speaking of which, it's not activating. I have this one solved into my softball pattern. But yeah, it is not as fun as I thought it would be because it is not, mine is not as thermally reactive as it needs to be. I also have the Lego toy. Of course, it's not actually Lego, it's an off-brand, but it does indeed. This is the answer to just peel off the stickers and just peel off the stickers if you get lost, if you get scrambled. However, this is very, very solid. Once you put the bricks on, they do not come off easily. I suppose you'd have to have one of those bricks. So but the bricks do indeed attach to it. However, it would have been nicer if you could stretch between two of them. You cannot. You can only build up on each one. But it's a fun little toy. I like it. And then this one, I understand this is the mirror cube, and this is the 5x5. I understand they actually manufacture and sell these now, but when I bought this was 3D printed by somebody and put together and sent to me. So that's fun. I like that. It's all sparkly because I'm part crow, we all know. And this one. This is a fun one. If you'll notice, this is actually a Rubik's Cube game. came out in 1982. And it has rules, and it has pegs. You take the cube out. These are the little pegs. And the rules, I believe, had something to do with either scrambling or not scrambling the cube. I'm not really sure. But between 2 to 6 people would play, and you'd each have, 2 to 6 people would play. You'd each pick a color. If there's 2 people, you'd pick 3 colors. If there's 3 people, you'd pick 2 colors, etc. And then each person would make a twist and then put a peg into their color. And then the next person would make a twist and put a peg into their color. And the goal was to get 3 of a row of your color with pegs in it. Did not take off and become incredibly popular, as we can see. But this is an example of what the cubes actually were like to turn back in the day. There was no finger tricks. You could not just flip the cube and have it go. You could not corner on the cube. The cube had to be completely lined up in order to make a turn, and it took 2 hands to make a turn. The original cube wasn't quite this clunky, but very close to it. So you sub-20ers, imagine imagine that Jeffrey Verasano, who set the first record, had a cube like this when he was doing it. So 20 seconds, 23.42 something, whatever it was, is a lot more impressive when you've got a cube like this than when you've got the finger. And so there it is, Rubik's game. Ta-da! Bum bum. I was been going through my stuff yesterday and today. Good morning. I see a name I don't recognize. If you're new, if you've just joined me, I am Sunshine. I'm the creator of the ABCube method for solving Rubik's Cubes, which is the newest original method, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a new original method out there since 2020, point me to it. I'd love to have a link. But this method is unique in that it works on every size Rubik's Cube. It works on the 2x2 the exact same way it works on the 8x8 or whatever size you have. A and B is all you need to solve every Rubik's Cube. Every Rubik's type cube. Which reminds me, is a great lead-in. What a segue. I've been going through my stuff and I've been finding my it took me years to get the method together as a 3x3 plus everything else, which was not a good marketing tool because everyone has a method for solving the 3x3, and there are very few methods, very few unique methods for solving the 5x5 or larger, because they say, well, you know, take a 4x4, make it look like a 3x3, and then solve the reductions thing, you know. So I found several of my original notes that I had been after I copyrighted it in 2015 and tried to find an agent. They're like, well, who are you that we would why would people buy your book? Well, I wasn't known. I hadn't published online yet. So I took the 3x3, I took my method, my book, my manuscript, and I rewrote it from a 5x5 perspective, including everything smaller and larger, to set it apart from the ones that just solve the 3x3. But I wanted to show you guys some of my things. I started off I was going to do 3x3 cards and hook them to a little keychain. See, I have little holes in the bottom here. But I did not have the same order of operation. These are very rough. you can see that I was separate. You know, you go pick a, first thing you do is of course the cross, which is not what I do now, and then from the cross you start adding the corners in. This is the goal, what you want to do, and these are, you can see that I have little arrows. I was already doing the arrows, right. Okay, down. Right. This is the inverse of my formula A, but it was to bring the corner to the top. Not how I do it. Not how I do it. But yeah, I started off with three arrows, which was very unique to the 3x3. When you want to go larger, you'd either have to have 4 arrows or 5 arrows or whatever, or narrow it down to just the 2 columns that you're using, which is what I did. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Top corners, top edges, bottom corners, bottom edges, position sides and orient sides. Not the order of operations I do, but then I see. So I was just making, for each cube, and then this one moves. Oh yeah, this moves these. And then when I went to the 4x4, I had to have 4 arrows, which became very confusing. But it was still slide up, slide second up, slide down, slide second down, to position to move this cube here. And to move this cube here, it would be this column, as opposed to just saying the cube will dictate. The first column is where it lands, second column is where it began. So yeah, and then top, yeah, and then bottom edges and bottom things. This is an example of what Formula A does. If it's solved and you start with Formula A, it twists these columns and does edges stuff, and then again, and it puts it back up, but it's rotated, and then it flips it again, and then it does this way, and 6 turns gets you through the cycle. This is A twice, and what it does: twists, twists, twists. The cycle repeats. Da 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 da. Okay, so that was the index cards, and then, excuse me, then I went and bought these from the dollar store, little foam books that I was going to use. Simple solve for every cube. I had not named it yet. You go from random to solved, and the only difficult part in solving the cube is to ignore and keep stable the remainder of the cube that is not in play. Formula 1, Formula 2, and then hello, Kitty. We has Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Fluffer. Hi, Fluffer. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, we will scratch our head on the book. We will bite the book. Are you mad that I'm not paying attention to you, you sweet cat? Arr, bite the book. Okay. Alright, go away. Fly. Be free. Run! And you're just writing everything down. So that became that. Here, I don't remember which notation. It's not standardized notation, but here's more Formula A and Formula B and what they do. Making notes. Then I went to a spreadsheet. Not a spreadsheet, a flowchart. I went to a flowchart. This is the flowchart for solving for solving the four corners, the first four corners. The second four corners is you would take this and flip it upside down and then repeat it. But yeah, so you start off with, you know, nothing, no particular pattern, and you want to go to this pattern. So you check these two cubies, examine these two cubies. Is your active color on either cubie? No, slide the bottom and examine the cubies again. When it's yes, is your active color on top? No, do formula A and ask again. Yes, slide the top to protect it. Is your active color in all four corners? No, go through the repeat again. When your active color is on top of all four corners, then you examine the side edges, ridges. Do they match? Yes, you're done. Go to the next step. No, does one side match? No, do formula B. And anyway, so yeah, so that was to help me set up my order. And here, okay, this is what formula A does. Rather, what formula A twice does, it switches the top color, it switches the cube around. And this is what formula B does. Once you have your colors on top, then you do formula B, and it looks like this, but what it did was switch these two cubes around. It didn't really. What it really did was switch these three cubes around, which had the effect of switching the two because you kept one straight. So that was, yeah. I will stop my reminiscing and start cubing anytime someone has a question or a comment. If you just joined me, hi, I'm Sunshine. If you don't know me, I'm the creator of the ABCube method for solving Rubik's cubes, and I'm reviewing my original. I'm going through the beginning stages. Oops, that's not cubing. I'm more visually and hands-on learning than reading. So everything was going to be visual. My book was going to be visual. You're going to go from a scrambled cube to a solved cube. And I'm going to do it by la-di-da-di-da. So this is where it all began. This is where it all began. I was using purple as my color, active color, because no cube has purple, and you can translate it to whatever color I use, so I could be color neutral. With a flow chart. This is formula A, this is 2A, this is B. Yeah, the flowchart things going on. So then, okay, let's see, I already did this one. Then I was being really pedantic, and I started, so it's like, okay, here's the edge using formula B. These are the active columns. You use one row and two columns. And if you use these two columns, this is what happens. It begins like this and ends up like this. These two columns, this is what happens. These two, this one. These two, this one. And for the centers, if you use these two columns, it moves these ones around, blah, blah, blah. As I was familiarizing myself. And then here we go. Da 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 da. Almost word. Here's the preface for my manuscript. I had the 2x2. The first Rubik's type puzzle was patented by Larry D. Nichols in 1970. Can you read that? The eight cubes were held together by magnets and could be twisted around the axis to scramble and solve the six-sided, six-colored cube, or it could be pulled apart and reassembled. The goal was to get each color of the same face on this cube. And there's the picture from the patent. And then, of course, Rubik's came out. And then, so, yeah, the 2x2, then 3x3, and then Singmaster wrote and published a tutorial, which became standardized notation. And then the 4x4, and then the void cube, etc. Chapter 2, edges, get rid of that. So chapter 1 was going to be the corners, chapter 2 was going to be the edges, chapter 3 was going to be the centers, and then chapter 4 was going to be shortcuts and pretty patterns, demonstrating what things you can do. The book that has not made it to print. It's called a manuscript. Chapter 1, the corners. And then, oh, here we go. I hand wrote the first one. I didn't have a name yet. Simple solve for every cube. A 2-formula solution for all size cubes. I drew pictures of all of the cubes it was going to do. Step 1 was an overview. Step then was corners. Corners and then edges. And then selection, identify, okay, then the centers, and an appendix. So from the handwritten held together with the clip. Oh, there's another one. Another flowchart. This is what A looks like. This is what 2A looks like. This is what, and then 5A's is the same as a negative A, yeah. So this was just the corners, just the corners on a 2x2. That solves it. I had fun doing this, you guys. I really did. And then I typed it all up and printed it out at the library. Formula A, Formula B. The formulas. I was trying to find an agent. They all wanted you to send out the first chapter so they could see if they wanted to be interested in it or not. So, chapter 1, 2, 3. And then then I printed it all out like this. This was printed out in color at the library. Dislocated floater cubie. Obliques. I did not know the word for the obliques. So there it is. And from there I went to the ABCube.how where it sits today. Okay, so you guys have any fun plans for the weekend? Anything fun you're gonna do? Alright, so I guess I should overview. On Saturday sometimes I scramble my cubes to get ready for the week, because I go through a stage step at a time on the weekdays, which does not seem to be. So, am I following you all, you guys? So, Formula A, Formula B, all you need to solve every size Rubik's Cube. When I teach it in real life, or in real time, it takes me between an hour and a half and 2 hours to teach this method, and then they walk away knowing they can pick up any size cube and put it down solved, regardless of its state, as long as it hasn't been taken apart. and put together incorrectly, because formula A brings the color to the top. So and then we work with things on, and then formula B moves 3 pieces around if need be. And that's all you'll ever need, because on every, on a 2x2, everything is on the same layer. A corner is a corner and can land anywhere. But an edge corner cannot land on an edge space. An edge space cannot land on a corner space. So they're on 2 separate layers, if you will. So as long as they're on the same layer, like the 4x4. So this cube could land here, facing the other direction. So the corners are one layer, the edges are on another layer, and then the centers are on another layer, because they cannot interchange. And so as long as you're working with as long as they're on the same layer, you'll have either 3 or more pieces to move around. And because that's the nature of the cube, because formula B moves 3 pieces around, and that's the simplest way. You can't simplify it more than that, to move 3 pieces around without changing the rest of the cube. So when you have 2 pieces and only 2 pieces, it looks like this piece wants to go here and this piece wants to go here, and all the other edges are placed correctly, or seem to be placed correctly. There's always 3 pieces. If you only see 2, the piece you don't see is literally the piece you don't see. It's the center row that when you get rid of the absolute center and the rows can start changing. By the nature of the cube, if one row is a quarter turn off, then you end up with an impossible situation. You end up with the parity. So if you rotate that row another turn, so that there's an even number of turns off, be it 0 or 2, whatever, then the parity disappears. And so every parity that you have can be solved with a single quarter turn, dissolved with a single quarter turn, and then solve the cube from that position, and the parity is gone. Kind of like this. This is, if this represents a cube, if the center is a quarter turn off, and I tried to solve the cube in this position, I would get a parity. But if it is 2 quarter turns off, and I can solve it in this position, we just call that boxes. So if it is an odd number of turns off, if you have a parity, it's an odd number of turns off, and all you have to do is rotate the center 1 quarter turn, the slice that has the parity touching it 1 quarter turn, and you don't have to know which direction to turn it. It doesn't matter, because an even number is solvable and an odd number is not. So you just make 1 quarter turn, and the parity dissolves. So, questions, comments, queries, posers, denials. How are you guys doing? All right, I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate what the moves do, and scramble my cubes, and we'll be done. Formula A. Formula A brings a piece to the top. So it's 1 row and 1 column. You hold the cube and you look at the front of the cube as if it were a spreadsheet with rows and columns. And those are the only moves we're going to be making. So we don't rotate the front or the back, or we just 1 row and 1 row and 1 or 2 columns. For formula A, the 1 row, if I apply formula A to the absolute center, that would be the middle row and the middle column, and this is what would happen. I move this piece away, I move the space down, I move the piece into the space, and the piece in the space back up, and so that rotates the center. Formula A does affect all 6 sides when you're doing it, but when you're doing it when you're following this method, it's done in such a way that it only affects the pieces you want to move, and the other pieces stay where they are, because 6 times, you know, will reach you back to start. Formula B, move 3 pieces around. On a 2x2, that would be the corners, because it's the only 2 columns you have. And up, up, down, down, and the corners moved around. Okay, Formula A would bring the colors back to the top. Slide the top to protect it, keep the cube stable. And when you bring the colors to the top, the bottom has not been altered because we didn't rotate the cube as we were going. We only rotated the faces. So again, so corners are on. A brings the active color to the top, and then you look and see if the sides match. And either one of them will, all of them will, or none of them will. Side that matches, if it matches, points away from you, and you do Formula B again. If no side matches, it doesn't matter which way you hold it. You can do Formula B. And then Formula A to bring your color back to the top again. Slide the top to protect it, keep it out of the way, and keep going. Slide the top, affect this piece. And slide the top to match them, and your corners are done. So Formula A brings the color to the top, B moves 3 pieces around. When it's the outside columns, it's the corners. If it's an outside and an inside column, then then here's what happens. There's top row, 2 columns. Slide up, slide down, and we just moved 3 cubes around. Moved the edge pieces. Do it again to show you. Anything you do to the cube often enough without rotating your position is going to go back to solve. It's just the nature of the cube. So if I wanted it to go this direction, the first column is where you wanted the piece to land. The second column is where the piece begins. If you have a larger cube, so if you apply Formula B to the center pieces, let's say I want to move this piece up, and it's going to land in this spot. That means that piece is also going to move. So the first horizontal move is to line it up so that it's going to come down with the right thing's going to come down. Then you go first up, rotate the top so that this piece that you're applying it Formula B to ends up in a different column. So that way, yeah, on the diagonals you can't, if you turn it the wrong direction, you'll be in the same column, which doesn't work. So you go up, slide to a separate column, second up, and then you reverse. Down, reverse, down, set the top, and we have moved 3 pieces around. Because this piece moved up here, that piece moved down, and this piece moved over. So Formula B is always moving 3 pieces. It can look like 2 pieces, but it's always moving 3 pieces. So Formula B again. Line it up. First column up, slide, second column up, reverse, down, and again this piece moved up and this piece moved to the other spot. So that's it. A moves, bring your piece to the top, B moves 3 pieces around, and that's all you ever need to do. I'm happy to answer questions and teach. It's much more fun than monologuing. But yeah, cubes are my passion, and I'm really proud of myself for having come up with this. And I am in the process of finding an agent, because I do want to actually, I'm old, I want it in a book form. I want to have it in my hand. I know that we have ebooks now, and and things like that. But you can find me on the internet. I check out my bio. In the bio here, you'll find my YouTube. My method is at abcube.how, and be kind if you go there, because I didn't know what I was doing as I was putting it together. The mechanics, I knew what I was doing about the cube, but I didn't know what I was doing about the website. So I made each distinct step be a blog post, and Wix organizes them by latest edited. So I can't, it's not lined up nicely like an index would be, which is why I'm trying to redo that and use them as, put them in as albums or galleries, pieces instead, so I can organize them correctly. But if you want to follow it, go to abcube.how, slide down to Let's Solve It, and then select corners, edges, centers, whatever you want to start with. And each step is broken down into its own page. I took the videos. There's it walks you through setup, and then doing the formula, and then resetting the cube, and then looking at the cube to go to the next step. But the video, so there's a setup and a video. There's the description and the video, and then a further description. All of the videos together make a playlist on my YouTube website, but the playlist isn't really meant to stand alone. It can, but it's the demonstration of the steps that you find on abcube.how. I'm also on speedsolver.com. I'm also on Wikipedia. If you look up Professor's Cube, mine is one of the 6 unique solutions for solving the 5x5 by itself. So that's it. That's me. I'm going to scramble my cubes, answer any questions that might be. Scrambling is always the hardest part, which is back in the day we would hand our cubes to each other and scramble each other's cubes. Ta-da! So, if you have any non-cuber friends, or anyone who would like to learn, bring them to me and we will play. We will have fun. Because that's what I teach. I teach non-cubers. Because they're, I'll be somewhere social like church, and I'll have my cube in my hand, and someone will say, "Ooh, that's a big one. Can you really do that?" And I'll say, "I can teach you to do that. You can do that. It's easy." Oh no, it looks so intimidating. Put it in their hands, and I draw the formula A on it. Tell them, show them what to do, and then a corner falls into place. They're like, "Oh, wow!" And I'm like, "Come visit me. I'll show you how to do it." And so they'll come, and we'll spend an hour, and I'll teach them just the corners. You're like, "Oh, you did the corners. Good. Now do the corners on this one. So now do the corners on this one. Now do the corners on this one," so that they get comfortable with the corners, and it demystifies the larger cubes, because the corners are the same, done the same way. It doesn't matter. And then so I teach them the corners. I send them off with a cube, and they come back a week later with a question. I show them. I just take 2 minutes and say, "Okay, by the way, A and B is all you need. If you apply it to the center, this is what happens. If you apply it if you apply B to the, if you apply it to, if you, instead of using the corners, you use other columns, then it moves other pieces around. And just play with it, and then they come back and they'll have a question. And if it's a large cube that they took with them, their question is a parody. And if it's a 3x3, their question is they've got pieces in the right place, but they need to be flipped. And so I answer their question, and then we play with the cube some more. And by the time they leave, you know, they know that they can pick up any cube. I let them take one of my spare cubes, whichever one. You know, one lady took my 6x6, a spare 6x6 I had, and someone else took a 2x2, but they take whatever's fun. And because you can't, if you know the system, don't have a cube in your hand, you forget it, you know. But if you have a cube in your hand, they'll take a picture of my AB method with their phone, and I'll answer 1 or 2 questions like the next time I see them. And then someone else will come up to me and say, "Ooh, can you do that?" And I say, "I can do better than that." And I'll walk over and put it in someone I've taught. Just put it in their hand, and they'll glance at me, glance at the cube, and keep talking, and just start scrambling the cube. You know, start solving the cube, because they could, you know, in the back of their mind, they're, you know, and so that's how I show that I solve it remotely. I teach people solve it, and then they can do it. So I do love the cube. I've been cubing since the early 80s. I watched the first competition, first speed competition on TV live. But I have never really been fast. But I can teach. I started teaching my friends. Not my method. This is the book that I learned from. This was the one that happened to be on sale at my 7-Eleven. So there's lots of books there were several books that you could buy. That's the one I happened to buy. All right, that's it. I'm done for the morning. These are ready to be solved next week when I scramble. I'm back here every weekday morning, 9 a.m. I am also here Saturday mornings, Friday evenings, and I love to share my love of the cube. So you guys all go have a great day, have a nice weekend, be nice to yourself, and we'll be back here next week. Bye.